Less risky to use.
Well, we need to roll call. Well, we got it, we don't even need that, do we?
Well, it's not a meeting, so.
I got some thoughts I've been thinking about this since our last meeting. I think we're going about this the wrong way. The commission obviously wants solar in this county. And they have a really good reason. Right now, all that land is being taxed as agricultural, which is low. The amount of money that they would pay the county in lieu of taxes would bring in substantially more money than anything else. This county has already blown 2 chances to help the taxes. One was the power plant. Now, the reason it was passed over is because they didn't want the fluid coming this way, but the prevailing winds bring it this way anyway. E&D sold out to Alamo. Alamo wanted to expand. The city wouldn't let them. They thought they'd stay. They left and expanded their plant in Texas. We all know that the tribe has the intention to buy back all the original reservation. If you drive Highway 75, you know where that is, just outside of Holton. I don't know if you know it. That goes all the way to Burnett's Mountain. There's people. They've already bought land adjacent to Burnett's Mountain. Okay? So what we have in front of us here is a document that the commission spent several years putting together, that they're comfortable with. I think we're wasting our time going through this page by page and making small changes. I think we should go to public meetings. We have their comments already. They can follow up with anything more that they think we need to know. And those are the things I think we should consider. And I'll give you an example. We changed this from, let's see. Well, conditional, it was special, we changed it to conditional. Conditional, that which is dependent upon or granted subject to a condition. We're writing the condition. The term that was used was special. This is out of a legal dictionary. Relating to or designating a particular purpose. And that's what this was. That's why they used the term special. The purpose is purely solar, nothing else. Now, I don't care if we change it back to special. I'm simply saying, I'll give this committee every minute it needs to do a proper job, but no more than that. I don't think we need these work sessions. We don't need to go through this and try to change it. Those are my thoughts. Give me my reason why.
Well, and I think a lot of that is valid, but also the reason that we exist, this planning commission, is to have our input. And I know that I'm not smart enough, I'm not a lawyer, to know, to be able to write these regulations for their litigation proof. I can't do that. But we can put our patronage input into, as members of this county, we can put our input in. And just because that's what the commissioners want, that's why they gave it to us, that is our job as a planning commission. And that was given to, they gave it to us to do nothing with, do everything with, or scrap it completely. It is our call. They gave us recommendations. So to say that they gave us this document and that's what they want, well, they have to give it to us to let us go through and say, are the setbacks acceptable? Are everything else that's in it? And personally, I've had this thought since the beginning. I just haven't figured out a way to get there. But I've been a part of this for 3 months now. We've had 2 meetings prior to this one tonight. And in one of those was giving special use variance to ag land to put family cemeteries on. The other one was changing the zoning from agriculture to light industrial to put a billboard on. The whole point of this big book that we have is zoning in Jackson County. And I don't feel that the special or conditional use permit is valid in this case. I think that if the land is going to an industrial site, that we need to change the zone. That's just my opinion. I would like someone, and I'm willing to have my mind changed. I have an open mind on this. But I do feel that the whole point of this comprehensive plan in this book is to tell us what we can and can't do with our property. There's things that I can't do on my property because they don't fall under the rules of the book. So that's where I'm at right now. And as I said, I'm willing to be convinced that there's a better way, but that's where I'm at, I guess, right now. And so that's why I say that we need to have our input on this process. You know, if everybody, if I'm in the minority that thinks this needs to have a zoning change, then we move forward as I'm outvoted. But then I will go through these regulations and try to make it as beneficial to the county, but yet also beneficial to this book and to what Jackson County has stood for years. So I don't know the length of these leases, but in a conditional use permit, we said 30 years, and they say that this project is supposed to last 30 years. Well, if the lease is for 99 years, who's to say in 25 years the company sells the leases to someone else, and then they don't clean it up or they don't tear it down? That's what these regulations are supposed to make sure things happen. But I don't know enough about the leases to say whether, I had a rock quarry right next to my house, and they signed a 99-year lease, and they operated for about 20. They still haven't settled on the ground and turned it back, because they're still fighting over the reclamation. They have a 99-year lease, and they don't have to pay anything. They can just keep going and going. I'm not gonna get into all the legal stuff about the leases, I don't care. But I just that's why I think changing the zoning, because then it stays that way, and you can put a term on it that after so many years it reverts back to A1, if it's reclaimed back to A1. But I'm afraid that if we put a condition of 30 years that this is conditional use permit, and they don't, why in 30 years wouldn't they put new panels? If the panels were out in 30 years, why would they put new ones up? They already have everything, the infrastructure in place. So I just wonder that if it will really ever end, even though we put a timeline on the condition. So that's why I would say to switch to make it each property, each parcel, go through a zoning change. Because then the planning commission, if that's why it exists, can go in and say, no, I don't think this one meets the requirements, or this one does, or things like that. We're letting an outside company come in and get special privileges that nobody else in this county gets. Just in the fact that I can't do things on my property that I want to do because they don't fit the regulations. I can apply for a special use, but I just don't feel that it fits in this case.
So actually, our job is to have these, we haven't been doing that because we won't do it.
Well, the commission tried to give us a head start.
What the commission did was go to the experts. Okay? They spent over 3 years going through it, studying it, lawyers drafted it. So it's in better language than I can put, and I think anybody else on this commission can put. And looking at saving time, if we open this up to public comment, which is what we're gonna do the next meeting, and any changes you want to make, you can bring those up at the time we go through with the public. We don't need to sit here and do them and go through it all over again with the public. Understand what I'm saying?
See,
Seems like duplicitous.
me personally, I don't see it that way, because, so, I think we should go through all of it, because if there's changes that we feel should be, because if we don't go through all of it, then really what's the point of this? Because a zoning change comes to us first, right? And we give approval or disapproval, and then ultimately goes to the county commissioners for approval or disapproval, right? Well, if we're not gonna go through the stuff and put our time into it, what's the point of having us just send it to the county commissioners for approval or disapproval? I feel like we wouldn't be doing our job if we didn't go through it and make any changes, listening off the solar feedback forms, or listening to God knows the social media experts that we have in this county that have popped up in the last 3 years. I think there's things that could be changed to make it more favorable to people that are very against it or kind of on the fence about it. But the other thing is, even if we do a special use permit or conditional use permit or a zoning change altogether, these regulations are not and this is me asking more, so I understand. If we approve these regulations, that doesn't mean that the solar panels are going to start going up immediately. Any special use permit or conditional use permit or zoning change will then again have to come in front of us, right? So just because we approve these regulations doesn't mean we have to approve any special use permit or zoning change or conditional use permit that then comes in front of us, right?
Correct.
So, me personally, even if we decide, because there may be places where we feel it doesn't fit in the county's comprehensive plan with what the plan is for the county, but there may be places where, it probably could work there. But I feel like having the regulations in place, even if we don't approve a single special use permit or zoning change, isn't a bad thing. At least having something on the books saying, if you're gonna do this, here's the rules for doing it. And then we'll go from there with the permits and the zoning changes that come in front of us. That's how I personally.
I just see that, that's why I said that I tried from the beginning to separate this current project from these regulations, because we're writing these regulations countywide. It's not.
Right, not for NextEra, not for.
If NextEra says we're done, we're not coming here, well, somebody else can come in. But we were forced to write regulations because of the possibility of this project. So we have to write the regulations so that they're, that's why we're here. I volunteered, and we all did, to come and sit at this table so that we could have a voice in this and in the input. It isn't a glorious job, and it's an unpaid job, so I did it so that I could have some input, and to just take that document and say, okay, this is what you think we should do, here you go. And I get, the reason we have these sessions is we're, right now, 5 of us that have 5 different opinions. And if we took that and went to a public input, we're gonna have 50 different opinions. And then we're gonna have to sort out how to deal with that. So we're going through, we have the public comment forms that people are supposed to fill out, and that's why we have 10 days grace period, so we can have time to look at it. They fill out the form, we can take that input and use it to our, how we want to go through these. And if this process takes 2 years, I'm okay with that. That's what I signed up for. I'm not about to rush through this. And if this company is saying we need to get this done so we can get going, I don't care. Well, I want to write these regulations so they're in Jackson County's best interest. And if that pushes the timeline out, and I think from one of the comment forms that we got that was written by one of the company representatives, they signed it that way, they mistakenly referred to us as Douglas County in that. So do they probably have another project going in Douglas County. I'm pretty certain they have one going in Washington County. So we're not the only one that they're talking to. We just have to write these regulations so that they're in the best interest of both sides. I mean, I'm on both sides of this, as far as beneficial to the county, but yet respecting the nature of the ag land in Jackson County. I agree.
You talk about going through it, I've already read it. I assume we all. But don't really need to go back through it. If you have changes that you want to make, and you want to mention something, we ought to do it. Not just go through it page by page.
But that's how we get there, is we go through line by line and say, is everybody okay with this line?
Well, I think that's the reverse. I think it should be say, what doesn't somebody? It takes a lot less time. We should know what we don't like about it.
I'm not in a hurry.
Well, I am. That's it, I'll give this every minute it needs. I'm not gonna sit here and go through this page by page. That's an absolute waste of time. If you have something you don't like, bring it up. If you have something you don't like, bring it up. Let's get to the root of it.
And it's pretty simple, we did that the last time.
Yeah, right.
We went through it and, okay, I don't like this, we're gonna talk about this, and we have a discussion on that. But we can't hop, skip, and jump back and forth, we just have to go down through it.
Suggestion we hop, skip, and jump.
I also think that if we just say, we're not gonna go through it, let's just open it up for public comment, we're gonna get about the same comment 1,000 times over and over. I mean, and I know we'll probably still get that even going through it, but I don't see how that would be productive for us when we have these. We should, personally, as we go through them, then that's a new draft of the regulations, and we put that out for people to kind of look at and see. And if that's in a month, 2 months, then it's in a month, 2 months. And because maybe there'll be some opinions that are swayed a little bit by the new, by things that we add or change, or, I mean, because people have already seen this and it doesn't seem to, I'm just saying, I think Luke and I are both saying the same thing, that we'd be doing a disservice if we didn't go through the whole thing. Because I haven't gone through the whole thing. I'm a plumber raising 3 kids, and I don't have, this is why I come to these, so we can sit down and go through these, because I don't have the time to sit down every day and go through, you know what I mean? And if you do, that's great, but, this is what I thought, when I thought we were to go through these things, you know? I mean, like I said, I personally feel like we'd be selling short if we didn't go through the whole thing. But,
And I've read through them 3 times, just as they are, and I've also read through, we have 2 different comment forms given to us that encompass the entire thing. And I haven't given that the entire due diligence, but I've read through 36 pages of each of those. And I don't necessarily have the time to do that on my own time either, but that's what I signed up for. I signed up knowing that this was coming, and I'm gonna give it every bit that it needs.
and that's not me saying that I don't.
No,
look
I know what you're saying.
Because I mean, my opinion, the solar feedback forms are great, but it's the same thing pretty much repeated over and over for the most part. No. I mean, I don't really, you know, the NextEra guy that sent one, I don't really particularly care what they think, because if they, you know, they could call tomorrow and say, we're not doing the project, and move on, but I still think that we should have, that, I don't think if that was the case, we shouldn't stop with regulations, because there's another company behind NextEra, and so on and so forth, there's other companies. But, like I said, if we don't approve a single zoning change, or a special use permit, or conditional use permit, whatever we do, whatever we call it, however we decide to do it, I still think that having the regulations in place is a good thing, just in case it comes along, and we should give them as much attention as what we can.
Well, maybe you haven't read them all, but they're not just yes or no. They're very specific. I've got a key to the sections. So when we have public comment, we want to ask the person to get to that point and these regulations, if they have anything to add to their comments, because there are very few that's just yes and no.
But
They're almost all
I
specific.
have my own personal changes that I want to see in that. And that's why we're having these work sessions that aren't open to public comment, because we never get anywhere if we had to listen to every person that will have something to say about this. We signed up, we volunteered to sign up to be on this committee. And that's what I'm giving it, because I have things that I want to see changed in there.
Then let's get to what you want changed.
Right, and I'm starting with the major change. I want to see if conditional or special use or zoning change is with the direction that this board wants to go.
What if you simply made a zoning change, you'd still need these, wouldn't you?
Yes.
I don't understand the difference. What would be the advantage of zoning change?
Well, and I don't know for certain, but say they sign the leases and they get the special use permit, and they have a payment in lieu of taxes. Does that go for 30 years? What if they abandon the project in 5 years? The conditional use permit goes for 30 years, and that ag land is still tied up, but is generating no revenue to the county. And we have zoning regulations. Why are we making a special exception to not change, to bring in an industrial opportunity without changing that zoning to industrial? It's not, at that point, ag land.
But if they walk away in 5 years, it's still ag, which they still could
But
use.
so the county lost out on all of that.
We can't stop that. Business, B&B, they shut their doors. I don't know if they're still paying taxes or not, if somebody's renting it. But anytime the business is full, yeah, you lose that tax income. Look around the square.
But if we change the zoning, we would still be getting the taxes on the industrial, from I-1 line industrial zoning.
If they folded, they wouldn't pay any taxes. They'd go
But the
bankrupt.
zoning would, the property owner would pay that.
Well, you make the farmer now pay for industrial land?
If they're signing their land up to be industrial, yes, that's what I see.
I think that's a detriment. to the
They're
farmer.
getting paid,
They're not gonna get paid if they close their doors in 5 years. They're gonna be stuck paying enormous taxes on land that's only used for ag.
They can always come back and ask to change the
they
zoning.
can,
Well,
yes.
they wouldn't need to.
That's why I don't agree with the conditional use permit. If you're committing your land to putting it under an industrial power plant or whatever, you call it an industrial, and you're gonna get paid to do so, I don't have a problem with increasing the property taxes on it. If I put up a building on my property taxes go up. If I do anything to improve the value of my property, the taxes go up.
But if you tear that building down, they go back down.
You have to reapply for it. You have to go in and tell them you took that building out.
Okay, and that would then reduce your taxes. It'd be minus.
But it's
1%.
still in an ag facility. This is changing it.
I understand what it's doing. I think it's putting a hell of a burden on the landowner.
So why are we letting the landowner off the hook?
Well, because he won't have the income to pay the taxes.
But if they fold and they go away, he can always come back in and have it rezoned to A1, right?
If the commission agrees with him, he's gonna have to apply for that.
So why are we letting the big company come in and override the comprehensive plan this county put forward?
They're not overriding it, they have, whatever we.
We're allowing
they
it
have to
through a
live.
conditional use permit instead of changing the zoning. We had we had someone have to apply for a zoning change to put a billboard out. They can still farm around the billboard. So why did we need to change it? Why couldn't we just give a special use permit? Why did we need to change the zoning on that 5 Yes, you were,
Oh, yeah.
January. So if they're getting paid to change their land, to take it out of ag production and make it industrial, I don't have a problem with changing the zoning, so they're paying more in property tax. They're not farmers at that point. They're not farming underneath these panels.
They can,
No, they can't.
yeah, they can. I studied, big thing now is sheep.
They can't be 15 feet, over 15 feet tall. In the regulations, the panels can't go over 15. How in the world are you gonna get a tractor underneath that?
Sheep.
Well, what
Most
if,
of
you
these
said
places
last
have
time,
sheep.
what if they don't want to have sheep? What if they don't want to have sheep?
Then they won't have any ag income.
Company.
That's up to the landowner and the
Sure.
company, up to their lease.
Right,
agreement.
but it's
The
not,
farmer
it's
can do.
not the same. The land use is not the same. If it's currently a farmed piece of land, and you put all the solar panels on it, you cannot farm it. So it's changing the use value of that land.
There are things you can do,
And like I
such as
said,
sheep.
if the majority of this commission wants to move forward with it under conditional use, I will work that way.
The payment in lieu of taxes, is that based on taxes for A1? Or how do they,
That would be, to me, that would be whatever the county commission and the company work out,
gotcha.
based on whatever
So,
factors they.
It wouldn't increase, if we did change the zoning, it wouldn't necessarily increase the amount, you know, because if the taxes are more on industrial than they are A1, would it increase the amount of payment in lieu of taxes if it was zoned industrial instead of still A1?
That would be up to the county commission, I would think, as part of that pilot.
Yeah.
maybe we would have to do that. Not in our, what was this name? I think you make, in your initial opening statement, I think you made some very important, valid points that this body needs to, think about.
I have one comment. Our original zoning regulations, Article 30 was for land only. So Article 30 is a zoning district, right? It's an overlay district. So when I talked to you the last meeting, it's like we would, you guys would maybe want to look at Article 30 as the zoning overlay district. And then in those districts, you have special uses. We don't have any conditional uses yet, but for conditional uses with something large like solar or wind or any other renewable thing, you have certain conditions on it. That we do have definitions now in our regulations specifying special versus